Christina Applegate seemed to have completely lost it. The contract she had with the TV station is gone. Her final film was never created. Her inability to work is directly related to the sickness that is claiming her life. It's not her illness that's the major problem. Decades ago, what transpired remained a mystery. She made poor choices and endured bullying and picking on while she was a child. Even her most ardent admirers will be shocked by the details of her suffering that she plans to detail in her forthcoming memoir. It was never intended to keep some things hidden. Christina Applegate came into this world on November 25, 1971 in the Hollywood area. As a profession, her dad was a record producer. She was born into a musical and acting family, but her parents split very shortly after she was born. Prior to her recollection, she began her career in the entertainment industry. At just 3 months of age, she made her soap opera debut with her mother on Days of Our Lives. Because Nancy Pretty couldn't afford a babysitter, she accompanied Christina to auditions and shows instead. On occasion, Mom would offer the baby M&Ms so she could join her on stage. The majority of Christina's kindergarten classmates were still in the process of developing their language skills. The Screen Actors Guild was already Christina's membership. At the tender age of 5 months, she appeared in an advertisement for Playx baby bottles. Not only was it endearing, but it was also her mom's single-parent way of keeping the family afloat. Christina couldn't put her finger on when she initially thought about cartoons or toys. Just wait for the next scene to start while paying attention to the stage directions. After Christina and musician Stephen Stills broke up, he gifted her a guitar, which she kept for a long time. That was her sole familiarity. Even as a child, she was a star in Hollywood. It was enough for her to get by. At the tender age of 9, Christina made her film debut in the bizarre horror flick Jaws of Satan. It was about a town in Alabama that was attacked by serpents that were controlled by the devil. In a little-known film that was scarcely distributed, Christina portrayed the daughter of a businessman. Any way you look at it, she went from baby advertisements to actual acting thanks to that. Following that, she started viewing television programs such as Charles in Charge and Silver Spoons. She received the Young Artist Award in 1986 for her performance in Heart of the City. The afternoon saw a large influx of children to the park. Christina had her scene rehearsed and recorded at the same time. Be that as it may, the accomplishment was masking something much more agonizing. In the neighborhood, a girl of 8 years old was teased for her weight. That one word deeply wounded her. The beginning of her long struggle with food and her own sense of self-worth, she recalled later, was that one moment. She joined Weight Watchers at the age of 15, just before landing the role of Kelly Bundy on Married with Children. Thanks to her mother, Christina suddenly began to overeat. Sometimes she would limit herself to just 5 nuts. If she ate 6, she would sob and remain at home. Nothing was apparent to her parents about how terrible it was. Upon Christina's 110 pounds weight loss, Nancy only inquired, "How'd you do it?" Christina herself landed her breakout role in 1987. At the tender age of 15, she portrayed the role of Kelly Bundy, the blonde daughter, in Fox's Daring News. It helped establish Fox as a major network and ran for 11 seasons. It stood out from the rest of television because it was both harsh and humorous. Christina became famed for her portrayal of the naive girl. The phrases she delivered, which became well known as Kellyisms, were greatly beloved. Although she amused many, she was actually starving to death. She struggled with her weight for a long time. It wasn't until 2024 that she brought it up again in public. She brought it up on her show that year alongside Jamie Lynn Sigler. She went on to say that she quit eating because the pressure to be skinny was too much. Her skeleton appeared attractive to her. For a long time, nobody knew. Despite appearing fine on camera, she was actually in the midst of a breakdown. Mirrors are still a source of anxiety for her. She jots down notes on the window in an effort to keep herself composed. She landed her first major film role at the tender age of 19, but her career took a nosedive. The 1991 film Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead bombed at the box office. It was ranked 6th, but only made $4.2 million in the beginning of the month. In total, it only generated $25.1 million. Christina was adamantly against making the film. She wasn't interested in box office pictures at the moment because she was still working on Married with Children. She later said that she presented herself as superior to everyone and everything, going so far as to label herself a freaking asshat for her imposing demeanor on set. Despite its poor box office performance and negative reviews, the film eventually gained a fan base. People started renting episodes on VHS and watching them on TV. In due time, it gained widespread popularity. Even if critics weren't crazy about her performance, the audience went wild for her. After the conclusion of her long-running TV show in 1998, she realized she had to try something daring. At 26 years old, she was prepared to prove that Kelly Bundy wasn't the only name on her identity. The two films she chose that year couldn't have been more dissimilar. The Big Hit, an insane action-packed comedy starring Mark Wahlberg, was one of them. The second one was a satire called Mafia, in which she portrayed a mobster's fiancé. Both films bombed at the box office, although that was never their intention. Contrary to previous perceptions, she was undergoing a transformation. Her ability to portray stronger, more nuanced female characters was demonstrated to the industry by these parts, which were her first truly adult roles. Careful and intelligent, the alteration produced the desired result. She went to even greater lengths with her 2002 album, The Sweetest Thing. Cameron Diaz and her got along so well that everyone assumed they'd known each other for years. It was panned by certain critics. Even though Roger Ebert thought the film was bad, he couldn't help but praise the efforts of Christina, Diaz, and Selma Blair. Similar to There's Something About Mary, this film aims squarely at female audiences with its wild and raunchy antics. It was a significant shift for Christina. The public began to view her as the romantic lead rather than merely a supporting player. Even the corporate sector took notice. She was able to acquire more high-profile roles and projects because of her on-screen chemistry with Diaz. Then in 2004, Anchorman was released. Veronica Corningstone, the fictional TV personality played by Christina, was based on Jessica Savage, a real-life journalist. Then she landed another prominent role, this one in a major motion picture. Her performance in an improvised film with Will Ferrell and his comedy troupe was solid. Not even a few of the scenes were jotted down. The way and when Veronica talked elevated her character beyond that of a mere fictional figure. She represented Christina's progress thus far. The role of a Broadway actress has always been Christina Applegate's ambition. In 2005, she achieved her lifelong goal when she took center stage in the Al Hirschfeld Theater's revival of Sweet Charity. The play has been performed 279 times since May 4th, and it will conclude on December 31st, 2018. Her portrayal of Charity Hope Valentine in The Music Man garnered numerous nominations and awards, including a Drama Desk and a Theatre World Award. The critics were astounded by her seamless transition from musical theater to comic TV. This was the culmination of all her hard work as a dancer, which she had begun when she was a little girl. Reaching Broadway, though, was no picnic. 3 towns were included in the show's rough test tour: Boston on March 3rd, Chicago on February 2nd, and Minneapolis on January 25th. The show was really taxing on the body. Even if the dance steps were confusing, the energy was constant. Despite everything, Applegate was determined to get through it. The night thereafter altered everything. During a Friday night performance in Chicago on March 11th, Applegate injured her right foot. The 5th metatarsal bone was broken by her. Still, she persisted for another 20 minutes before giving up due to the agony. It occurred within the initial few minutes. The show had to go on without her. The original creators of the show initially denied that it would be staged on Broadway. Just 2 days in, Applegate managed to persuade director Barry Weissler to keep it running. She was too invested to just let it end there. In order to alleviate her ailment, she returned on April 18th donning a pair of custom-made tan ankle boots. As part of her performance attire, she sported these boots. Not only were they significant, but they also prompted her to consider the financial toll the show was taking on her. She persisted in dancing despite the pain. Despite her body's pleas, she refused to give up. She will never recover from the severe injury to her foot. In 2013, Applegate broke the news to the world that she was unable to dance anymore. For as long as she could remember, returning to Broadway had been her lifelong dream. Even as a little child, she had been moving to the music. After that one mishap, it was game over. She had a new outlook on her work following that. She would dance whenever she could, but she was no longer cast in physically demanding roles. It hurt to be nominated for a Tony, but it was an honor nonetheless. Even though it occurred after she injured herself and was unable to dance, it indicated that she had made it to Broadway. The marriage of Christina Applegate and Jonathan Shy appeared to be going swimmingly. After dating for a while, from 1997, they tied the knot in Palm Springs on October 20th, 2001. Somebody or something wasn't quite right behind the scenes, but no one doubted it would endure. Shy filed for a divorce in December 2005. The final chapter was in August 2007. Christina was responsible for the upkeep of Alexis's house in Los Angeles as well. After allegedly leaving with a Mercedes and a statue of a Buddha, Shy disappeared. The worst thing that happened was that they didn't even bother to beg for help. According to Shy, he wandered down a dark road, imbibed drugs, drank too much, and had sex with random people. He felt as though God had abandoned him. They split up after 6 years of dating, but instead of fighting, they were silent and grieving. Shortly after a breakup, Christina had to cope with something far worse. At the time of his death, Lee Grievous was alone in his Hollywood apartment. At 26 years old, he was so young. It was brought about by an excess of heroin. Beside his corpse, a needle was located. Just 1 month before he would have turned 27, he went away on June 29, 2008. In 2005 or 2006, while Christina's marriage was quickly dissolving, she started seeing him. He fished for a living in Alaska before he turned to photography. He dumped her due to his substance abuse issues. Even as a young man in New York, he struggled with a heroin addiction. He experimented with cocaine and other narcotics after getting expelled from school for marijuana. Their reconciliation in April 2008 was short-lived. Nonetheless, they had broken up by the time of his death. It broke Christina's heart. She gushed about what a great guy he was and how much she would miss him. Then she overheard an utterly unique occurrence. She received the news that she had breast cancer in August 2008. Her age was a mere 36 years. It was detected early during a routine MRI. She had been getting tested regularly since the age of 30, even though she showed no symptoms. Mom Nancy Pretty had triumphed above breast cancer, not once but twice. Christina was determined to have the BRCA1 gene mutation. Her lifetime risk of developing breast cancer was 87%. Ovarian cancer would strike her 44% of the time. Upon seeing these figures, she wasted no time. Despite only having cancer in one breast, she went ahead and had both removed. According to her, she is not interested in having her blood tested every few months. She felt calm inside. It was a surprising decision that stunned many. Her age was a mere 36 years. Her fame knew no bounds. She did what she believed to be right, even if her appearance had always been a component of her employment. A month later, she received the news that her cancer had completely disappeared. Chemo and radiation were unnecessary for her. The procedure was successful. However, it was not easy. She did admit to crying and screaming at certain points. She kept her sense of humor by making a joke about how her nursing home breasts would be the best. Although the jokes were humorous, the anguish was genuine. She did something courageous in 2009. While in the midst of her suffering, she established a nonprofit organization called Right Action for Women. It guarantees that MRIs are administered to women at high risk of breast cancer. Insurance often does not pay for these kinds of examinations. Much money has been raised by the group. As part of the agreement, the corporation vowed to provide ASCX with a minimum of $100,000 to assist in funding additional screenings. Although Christina had a rough go of it, she managed to salvage the situation so that it may help save lives. Even though it was painful, she persisted. Returning to television after married with children was a daring choice for Christina Applegate. On the 1998 comedy series Jessie, she portrayed a single mother named Jessie who worked at the bar her father owned. which had a German motif and strove to improve her life. Since the show ran concurrently with her final seasons as Kelly Bundy, she had the unique opportunity to portray two very distinct characters on television. For the first time, her name was proposed for a Golden Globe. The 42 episodes that made up the show proved that she was more than simply a silly kid with a lot of potential. She proved she could be the star of the event by winning the People's Choice Award for Best Female Act. As though her character were experiencing the same things that Applegate was, she appeared to be attempting to escape the shadow of her early popularity. Next, an unexpected twist occurred on Friends. She portrayed Rachel's superficial sister Amy in 2002. She had never watched the show before she stepped onto the platform, but her performance was absolutely breathtaking. On her third return in 2003, she took home an Emmy. After 20 years after filming Friends, she confessed on her podcast in 2024 that she had begun watching the show. The news that she had won an Emmy for a program she had never watched stunned her. The fact that she didn't perceive it as labor was something she poked fun of. It was nonetheless a standout performance from her. With Samantha, who she became more hands-on with her company. In the year 2007 is a show about a fainting woman's journey to self-discovery. Applegate was involved in both the production and the acting of the film. She won 2 Emmys and 2 Golden Globes for it. One character struggle to re-establish herself after losing everything she knew became a metaphor for the way people evolve throughout the show. How deeply this narrative will impact Applegate's life in the future was unknown when it was written. After 35 episodes, she was named the show's Best Female TV Star by the People's Choice Awards in 2008. The reality, though, wasn't always so picture-perfect. In 2012, Applegate and Martin Lenny-Bill were the targets of a stalker who threatened their safety. Brutal and terrifying were the texts. "You took Christina from me," one tweeter noted. They destroyed his skull after someone else said, "I'm going to kill you." The seriousness of the threats was such that the Los Angeles Police Department needed only a few days to obtain a search warrant for Twitter. No one ever caught the person who stalked the account. Applegate has a little kid already at the time. After what happened, they insisted that she take precautions at home. Such an occurrence was not unprecedented. Some thief once broke into her house and tried on her clothing. After that, a change occurred that altered the course of events. In 2021, while filming the final season of Dead to Me, Applegate received the devastating news that she had multiple sclerosis. Upon reflection, she realized the initial indication had existed for quite some time. She got up quickly after falling as she ran to shoot the pilot. Her condition rapidly deteriorated as the gunfire continued. They had to roll her to the stage in her wheelchair. She persevered through the season despite her inability to conduct basic tasks like opening doors. On a Monday afternoon, she broke the news to her coworkers, saying, "I found out that I had MS." She went on to say, "A sickness I'll have for all my days." The news startled everyone. Her words to him were, "I don't enjoy living." She continued, "I don't enjoy things anymore." She compared her life to a hellish existence. She gained 40 pounds. Now that she needs a cane to walk, she worries that she may trip while showering. Even getting out of bed in the morning can be a struggle, let alone holding a phone or opening a drink. Sometimes she just remains in bed and doesn't try. She no longer ventures far from her home, which has become her sanctuary. Things took a turn for the worst in 2023 when she contracted the Sapo virus while eating a salad at a restaurant she enjoyed. People were unwell for days afterward. She described in horrifying detail how she had diarrhea, felt elated, and puked up while attempting to collect a stool sample. The infection, she learned, was transmitted by the consumption of human excrement. She was completely unaware that she had suddenly awakened in her own excrement. She was compelled to do that. She went to the emergency department over 30 times due to gastrointestinal issues, she said People magazine. As far as anyone could tell, the nausea and vomiting would not go away. At long last, in 2023, she broke some devastating news to everyone. Performing in front of camera was something she vowed she would never do again. "I rise at the crack of dawn and working 12-hour days became impossible," She claimed her attendance at the Screen Actors Guild Awards was her final. Regardless, she is determined to persevere. She intends to continue working and help support her daughter by taking on voiceover jobs. Recurring as Kelly Bundy in an animated Married with Children series is one of those ambitions. Christina Applegate has a long history of being a powerful and hilarious actress. Contrarily, she demonstrated something new to the world in June 2024. Subtly, she stunned viewers on her show with a statement. She claimed that getting some coffee or going for a stroll didn't sound like a good idea because she was so down. She made no effort to improve its appearance. At the age of 52, after being in the spotlight for decades, she simply stated, "I don't enjoy living." This was her most honest statement to date. The autumn of that year was the worst. In November 2024, she opened up about living with MS to everyone. In other words, she was exact. According to her, she was wailing in agony while lying in bed. No one could reach her on the phone. Even a bottle was too much for her to handle. She had feeble hands. Another MS sufferer described the agony as knife-like. In the same program, Christina made no effort to improve the situation. Her sole comment was, "It's the worst." News accounts of her death became ubiquitous 2 weeks following her confession of mental illness. In a flash, she corrected an inaccurate record. No one had ever placed her on suicide watch, she claimed. However, she claimed that she felt better after being open about her struggles with mental health. It removed the embarrassment. The news had distorted her words, but she refused to apologize for being forthright. By the beginning of 2023, she couldn't deny the changes her body had undergone. She gained 40 pounds due to her medication and lack of activity. This cane-wielding woman was once a famous dancer. She confided in him that she was not feeling well. Seeing her in Dead to Me's final season was painful. All of it was overwhelming for her to manage simultaneously. Everyone else assumed she could read their minds. Yet, she was completely oblivious to their emotions. Next was the night of the 2024 election. Donald Trump had just defeated Kamala Harris. A lot of people were thrilled after reading something Christina posted online. Someone once advised her to stop following her if she voted against disability rights or women's rights. According to her, her daughter was wailing before her account was terminated. She informed her fans. When someone said something disrespectful, she didn't mince words. Her response was one of fury. However, the web is capable of remembering. By the next morning, she had made an effort to apologize. Her only desire, she stated, was to watch Bravo episodes, so she had stopped being angry and was crying instead. However, for many friends, it was already past. Los Angeles was engulfed in flames in January 2025. Following a few months, still fuming over the election, Christina exploded once more. Criticism of Hollywood's podcast for being entitled to it was disrespectful. Her city was defended by her. The majority of Los Angeles, she remarked, were just regular folks. Co-host Christina attempted to console her, but Christina wasn't in the mood. Quietness was no longer an option, she informed them. Again, that show made many furious on the internet. Others expressed their agreement with her. She was informed by some that they had had enough of her. Yet, Christina showed no signs of slowing down.